Dr. I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Eye on Ukraine, and this time I'm going to discuss an issue that is somewhat, I don't want to say somewhat, that is very unsettling to me. War, why there is war, and children's involvement in war. I'm going to start out with a few thoughts on why we kill in the first place. I have 5 books on psychoanalysis, mostly on Freud, and I was always very much attracted to Freud's views on war. He wrote in 1915 a very wonderful essay, Thoughts for the Time, on War and Death. And he discussed war in other works, like Beyond the Pleasure Principle and so forth. And I'm not a dyed-in-the-wool Freudian, I'll say that right off the bat. But I do think that his thoughts on war give us a lot of food for thought, as it were. So let me wax Freudian for a bit. I mean, in some sense, why do we kill? We kill because it's an enjoyable experience. It's a rush. It's a pleasant experience. I've always been attracted to watching people who have been in the war speak of their experience in the war. And on the one hand, people who have been in the war are misfits when it comes back to return from the war. And why is that? One is because people who have never fought in a war, people who never had the power to take another person's life, to save another person's life, just won't understand the dynamics of warfare. I've always been astonished is that when people describe war, they often describe it in rather glowing terms, not in necessary terms. And on one hand, it was offered to some people to describe, to fill in a blank and say, war is the closest thing to blank I've ever experienced. Fill in the blank, heaven or hell. Many people, and it's not uncommon for people to put heaven in that slot, in that blank. That is always, that astonished me early on, but it ceases to astonish me these days. Because I think people who have been involved in war experience a complete gamut of human emotionality, from being involved in, let's call it Darwinian experiences of where life itself is on the line and other people's lives are on the line, and you need either to be killed or be killed, must be an astonishingly thrilling experience. Also, I think Freud would agree that just to be able to hold a gun at someone's face and say, you know, your life is in my hands. What a rush. We know from other videos I talked about when Vladimir Putin talked about his enjoyment of the KGB and being involved. He said, it always astonished me that how so many people's lives can be in the hands of one person, he goes. And he spoke of it, even though he tried to hide it in terms of glowing, in glowing terms, that this was a very great rush and something very, very exciting. You know, so I think part of the reason why people don't understand warfare, because in some sense, in a very perverse sense, people are living fully. People are living on the edge. And it is, in one manner speaking, a bit of a rush, even though analyzed from a rational perspective, it's really a disgusting rush. It's really a disgusting experience. But it speaks to, and here I wax Freudian again, that we're biological animals. And Freud, I think, was a complete materialist, reductionist. He thought we were, even as psychological thinking was biologically reductionist, we are biological creatures. And we are forced into living in social settings, and the social settings afford us security. But what is lost is the sort of the danger element, the thrill of danger we experience in primitive conditions and so forth. So I think at some point, you know, wars, I think the most disgusting things that in which people partake, but nonetheless, it's not going to go away for a while. But I think over the centuries, situation globally has improved in many respects, in spite of the fact that people like Donald Trump um, seem to, and Vladimir Putin and other people seem to enjoy war and enjoy the power of being in a position to either to start wars or stop wars. And as much as Trump talks about he's the president who ends wars, he's the peace president. The thrill he takes in bombing these Venezuelan boats and being able to bomb Iranian cities and stop their, he certainly finds it a thrill. The power, no different than Putin. So, anyways, I want to share a couple pictures with you, and I hope you find these as disgusting as I found them to be. Give me a sec. Of Russian children being schooled in the military. Here we have three young girls, each of whom was given a gun, certainly without ammunition, and pretend that they're soldiers and they can shoot and they kill. How exciting that is it not, right? There's another picture of young girls in military uniforms marching, and Putin has made it a practice to indoctrinate children as young as 4 in marching in patriotic activities like marching in parades and dressing up. Children, we all know children love to dress up. It's part of being a child. And adults like to dress up. But the fact that you can put on a uniform and behave patriotically, he is schooling these kids in warfare and killing and Russian aggression. And that's disgusting to me. The Stoics said, here are young Russian boys and girls dressing up like sailors, so being part of the Russian fleet and so forth. And look at the one young boy. A lot of them are sort of looking around, perhaps just prior to having marched, looking around, okay, what are we supposed to do now? A look of puzzlement on the faces of a couple of these. And here we have young boys sitting on a Russian boat with guns. And the one to the right, the closest he looks like he would be a great captain of a boat or admiral or something like that. There's obviously enjoyment of being on top of something so large, and we have young men, young boys, and young girls sitting here at a celebration, either pre or post parade celebration in one city, and all of them singing, chanting, whatever it is, Russian patriotic songs and stuff like that. So I find this all rather disgusting. And I want to talk today about not only Russian children, but Ukrainian children. This, to me, is something about which we haven't talked much at all, and I don't understand why. It's common knowledge, and I'm going to show shortly a video by Senator Lindsey Graham, who's heading a subcommittee to look into the abduction of Ukrainian children. And Graham has people testifying that I thought there might be 30,000 stolen Ukrainian children. There are 35,000 to the best of American intelligence. And at least in spite of the fact that I think Donald Trump doesn't give a damn about this issue, as I said in the previous video, he's not looked into it once. He's not once mentioned, his wife has, but he's never once mentioned these abducted Ukrainian children. He's not made it an item of negotiation. This guy who's the art of the deal, this should be one of the most pressing issues of negotiation between, if they're going to be negotiations. I don't think you negotiate with a terrorist, with a war criminal, and so forth. But I don't understand why this issue has not been discussed more. So we have as many as 210, call them cells, call them camps, call them what you want. Prisons, perhaps, would be the best word, where children, as we're going to see in the video, are kept and they're drilled. What ages, I don't know. It hasn't been released in there, but probably older than 4. But children are gathered. So we have some 35,000 Ukrainian children in 3 different types of camps, one of which is a camp just for Ukrainians, one of which is a camp for young children who will be presumably only males who will be soldiers someday. And there are Ukrainian camps, sub-camps in those camps or in those prisons, let's call them what it is. And then there are other camps. But the idea is that the Russians know what the Stoics knew a couple thousand years ago, is that, and the Stoics were noted for having said, give me a child to the age of 5. One Stoic said, another said, give me the child to the age of 12. I'll have him for life. And this is why the great Thomas Jefferson did not wish to, realizing there's so many religions on the planet, did not wish to inculcate any child in formal schooling into one particular religion. In Anglicanism in America was the religion of the time when he was young, and he wished not, during his proposals for educational reform, to inculcate any child in any particular religion, and did not want children to have access to religious instruction until they're older and their rationality was fully formed. This is what he learned from the Stoics and Aristotle and Plato, so that they can make fully informed decisions and choose what to believe at an appropriate time, and their rationality is informed. Young children are highly impressionable. If you school them in the ways of the Russian army, the Russian Navy, and so forth, you're going to have them patriots for life. And of course, this is part of the plan of Russian propaganda to have complete control, complete censorship over the media, so that you can only get pro-Russian sentiments on the media. So the Russian people will only be exposed to that, and the children especially. Why, I ask, are Ukrainian children not being talked about more? Now, again, it's something Lindsey Graham, I respect him for pressing this issue. He's always pushed this issue. And I've said, I'll iterate what I said before and reiterate it, is that Donald Trump's never talked about this himself. His wife has brought the issue up. Does he think it's an issue that a woman should discuss only because it's about children? I don't know, but either way, it's fucking ridiculous, because this issue of the fate of Ukrainian children being in these prisons, being in these Soviet-style camps where there's their indoctrination into being citizens of the Russian state and being young soldiers who will grow up to shoot at their own parents if need be. This is what is of utmost disgust to me, and I wish people would discuss this issue more. Anyways, I am forever yours, Dr. Mark Andrew Holacek, the Colonel, Polkovnik, and TTFN. I'll do this again. And please like and share. This is a very important issue. Please like this. Please share it. We need to be talking more about the fate of these Ukrainian children. We need to be talking more about the fate of Russian children who are thrown into these roles of being young men and girls and boys who are dressing up as soldiers so they can go on and kill people later on, to enter Europe and destroy other countries and stuff. So let me say to you, thank you very much for watching this. Please share this. It's a tremendously important issue. And TTFN for now. Have a great day. Slava Ukraini.